coming to us, honorable members of parliament, we're now buying Lamborghinis, yet our rebate is on 80,000. You buy a 210 car, did you pay the excess and so forth? And it is pretty there, you know. Just this year alone, ZIFA has received well over 800,000 from CAF and FIFA. What has happened to that money? So what was happening is this, just to tell you to understand, this money is in foreign currency. In EcoBank, they will go and withdraw 20,000 cash. I want you to understand this. They then go on the black market and probably sell it at 8 and then redeposit.
And I'm here to present to you our one-on-one interview with Honorable Temba Mliswa. Apologies again, we had initially advertised for this show to come on at 1 o'clock, but the Honorable was busy with some work. And so we've come to give you the interview now. We are discussing the current state of affairs in Zimbabwe. Honorable, thank you so much for coming, and very big welcome.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here where there's some power, there's some electricity.
Right, yeah, we're some of the lucky ones, isn't it? All right, Honorable, I want to find out from you, in your view, where are we as a nation? What is the current state of our nation?
I think it's important that as Zimbabweans we find ourselves in admitting that this country needs reconstruction, meaning that for the past 37 years, you know, it certainly has not been where we want it to be. The reason why we talk about 37 years is, yes, the first 10 years, 20 years would have been good, but what happened thereafter destroyed whatever was built from 1980 to 1990, from 1990 to 2000. Okay, and now we're in this state of affairs. When I talk about reconstruction, I'm talking about going back to basics, ensuring that what was there is there. Great infrastructure is no longer there. Good health care is not there. Education, while our academics have done well in ensuring that the standard remains the same under hard conditions, it could be easier. Even sport itself, you know, has got to go back to where it used to be. And the economy, ultimately, has got to go back to where it used to be, where people are able to survive by what they get at the end of the day. Where inflation does not become the order of the day, where you have to debate and be quick to dispose of the little money that you have. And it still remains little in what you want to want. So, yes, reconstruction in that the different sectors of the economy, industry, have got to be attended to. Are they in the state that they were in? We live in a global village. Are we up to the global village? The SDGs, have we been complying with them? Are we up to scratch? You know, because while Zimbabwe is facing these problems, we've got to move with the world. And we seem to be, you know, not moving with the world. We seem to be stagnant in what we want to do and so forth. So ultimately, that's the state. And in it being the state, does it need one political party to deal with it? No. Does it need one leader? Yes. Emerson Mnangagwa is the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. There's also the opposition, the biggest opposition led by Nelson Chamisa. Politically, why can't they talk, first of all? So the question too, the other problem, is it a political problem or economic problem? Why is it that after each election we have differences, we're not together? So these are some of the issues which you need to talk about before really talking about the welfare of the people. Do the leaders, you know, see that their being in power is a service to the people, and being a service to the people, they're forced to make decisions which are for the people and not for them. There's Nelson Chamisa in the advocate as a person. There's Nelson Chamisa in the advocate as the leader of the biggest opposition, MDC. And then there is also Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa, who's the leader of ZANU-PF and the person, and now also the leader of government. So he has got three hats that he's wearing, and is he able to separate the government from the party and the party from the government? Is he able to separate his own personal feelings to that of the party and the government? The government happens to be the ruling party. That's the one that governs and so forth. So those are issues which I think we need leaders who are selfless, leaders who are magnanimous in accepting the aspect of reconstruction, because the old regime destroyed what was the corruption. You just saw that the ZANU-PF youth leaders for the first time got together to denounce corruption, to talk, to name and shame leaders who they thought were corrupt. That, to me, is the youth being the vanguard of the nation, not of their party. Because when you talk about corruption, you talk about everybody, because everybody is suffering as a result of corruption. And because they've started it, the war veterans have also supported. And the nation must be behind that. And it's a cancer. And it's great that the governing party is able to self-introspect and criticize itself, because the corruption is coming from them.
All right. You talk about reconstruction as something we need to focus on as a nation. Perhaps I want to understand from you, you're talking about bringing back the nation to a point where all the things you mentioned were functional. What has caused us to move away from that place where the country was performing, the economy was good, and everything else about the country was working well? In your view, I mean, you've already talked about corruption, but elaborate for me.
Selfishness, self-aggrandizement, critical, not having the will to serve the people. Corruption. Okay, corruption. You know, whether you like it or not, it has destroyed this nation. The resources that this nation is endowed with is priceless in terms of the value, in terms of the quantities. But what have we done to then leverage of that, to maximize from that, so that we are able to say this money from the resources is going into the fiscus? We talk about accountability and transparency. How do we then today measure and quantify the diamonds? We measure it through that money going into the fiscus. When it goes into fiscus, then it goes into the public sector through the different ministries which are there. But no one today can talk about the success of diamonds, because even the people who were living in these areas in Chiazwa never saw their lives changing as a result of the greed that emanated within our leaders. And today, the ZANU-PF Youth League is naming those leaders and so forth. And yet they're still in leadership. So to me, that aspect is a critical aspect, because for as long as we even bring in foreign direct investments, where you're a nation which cannot account, which is corrupt, which is not transparent, nobody wants to put money. You also have policy inconsistency. Okay, you've got statutory instrument 142, which was done by Minister of Finance, Honorable Professor Mtuli through the Reserve Bank Act. To me, just today I was in Norton, where companies were telling us, while we don't have power, we had already agreed to the fact that we can pay in foreign currency so that we get power. Here we are owing money in foreign currency, ESCO, Kabora Basa. So with SI 42, the money that you can tender is bond RTGS. Is that able to pay the foreign currency? No, it cannot. Where there's no power, how then are you able to produce? Because also the Minister of Energy was saying Zimbabweans owe money to the power company. But Zimbabwe is saying, but we're in a difficult situation. We have no power. We cannot produce. How do we pay you? So government is forced to come in and take the necessary legal recourse to be able to get its money back and so forth. They say they owed 1.2 billion. But people also say, but we have lost a lot of business too. Maybe we must also say how much business have people lost from the power cuts, from not having the power, sufficient power to be able to see the end of the day and so forth. So that's economic quagmire that we find ourselves in. Right.
I want to talk about corruption for a little bit, and I think for a lot of our viewers, and you have been trending in terms of what some of the efforts you've been championing in Parliament to expose corruption. Can we tell, Honourable, how much corruption has really affected the country? Is it quantifiable when we talk about corruption? How much money has the country lost through corruption? Is there any way where we can statistically show the losses we've had through corruption?
Gold, for example, if I'm not mistaken, generates $19.4 billion. Okay, and out of that, how much of it is smuggled? Okay, this is what you can account for. What about that that's not accounted for? The leakages which are there. I want to talk about a mineral that we can, without sanctions or with sanctions, you can still sell it. It's tradable. Okay, how much of that has left the country, which have come into the country. Platinum. Zimplats are doing well, UNC are doing well in terms of corporate social responsibility and getting more. But we're now parceling some of this to speculators. People are not going to mine. So you have a situation where you're taking out the credible business people who have a track record of doing business. Okay? Because you are going to put money into my pocket, I'm prepared to save your interest because it saves my interest, not nationally. How many mega deals have been signed by government in mining, by Honorable Minister Chitando? But what has become of that? My understanding is very clear. If there is a transaction which benefits government and these investors are genuine, why can they advance government some money? If let's say it's a 4.2 billion deal, what hurts that company from advancing $1 billion to government? Then it goes into the different sectors of the economy, be it health, education, infrastructure, climate change, agriculture, and all that.
So do these deals actually exist, Honorable?
The reason why we're now starting to doubt them and we say there's corruption, nothing is manifested out of them. We're just in Parliament just now, where we asked the Deputy Minister of Mines, Honorable Polite Kambamura, that you're talking about a $100 million facility for gold miners, which will be given to them. But we're told the same again when Honorable Minister Chidago was the minister. Is it the same facility? He said yes. So what happened to it? Because we never saw it. Says it's true. We tried to pursue it through the government. Okay, in pursuit through the government, we are also, it's a Chinese facility. We did not come through. But he talks about another $100 million facility, which is not different, which is the same, which failed. So to me, why then do you want to say to people there's a $100 million facility for the small-scale farmers when you could not access it in the first time and you can't access it again? Why don't we talk about facilities that we are there, that are accessible? Look at Fidelity. Look at the smuggling of gold, which has been happening in all these gold mines that you've heard, which are closed. Then the next thing, the illegal miners are there. Who is in charge of those illegal miners? How come they're not arrested? Where do they take that gold to? Because naturally, if you're doing illegal mining, then you're going to get the gold out illegally too. Because there's no reason for you to then be able to do something legal when you're doing something illegal. You worry that you might as well be caught in the web of those who are going out smuggling and gold and so forth. Diamonds revenue. We had the so-called $15 billion which went missing. Whether it's $15 billion or not, but nobody denies the fact that diamond money went missing.
Yeah.
But what did he do for the people and so forth?
Yeah. So, Honorable, we're seeing a lot of circling around corruption issues, and yet we're not really seeing the end result of all of that circling around corruption. Are we likely to see a sincere crackdown which will lead to open prosecutions? Yourself being chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee for
Sorry,
Mines
I'm not
and
one of the
Energy.
chairperson.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll take that back.
Yes.
So you sit on the committee?
I don't sit on any committees right now.
Okay, all right.
Just
but
because I don't believe in sitting on committees where you do recommendations that are not implemented. Because
that's what we want to understand, Honourable. The time you were chairperson and you started unfolding corruption, and what happened to those efforts? So essentially we hear the headlines, we see the stories, and then the stories die. Where does that end? Where does that go?
It's a very good question. Parliament has oversight. It represents people. And when we come up with recommendations, they must be implemented. The recommendations of the 7th Parliament and mining are critical. Chindorichining had great recommendations. Daniel Shumba's chairman had great recommendations. I had great recommendations. But what has happened of that? We talked about the forensic audit. Okay. In terms of the diamond houses, that was never done. We spoke about the accountability of the diamonds through MMCZ. That, again, was never done. We spoke about the marketing too. We spoke about ZCDC, which now you've had people like Morrison Pofu being suspended and being fired, saying that that company cannot function because the way it was created was wrong, was illegal. But it continued, and now they've been suspended because of this misappropriation of funds, diamonds and so forth being put in place. We equally said that we cannot have a situation where we have ministers, former ministers who are not prepared to come before us and refuse. they must be investigated. Obet Mpofu is one, whether you like it or not, because it's part of the recommendation. I will not name names which are not on documents which are for public thing. He is there, being named. He must be investigated to see how he ran the ministry, to account for it and so forth. We've got the Western area, which is a core concession which belongs to Wange. Being taken away, being given to Billy Rottenberg, who was given a toll-door concession which belonged to Unki. He speculated, he sold it. So what are we doing to go back to this person in Billy Rottenberg to say, okay, you were given this concession, what did you mine? There's nothing that he mined, he sold it to X. Is that not fraud? It's fraud. He's been given another concession, which is the gem of Wange Colliery Company. You've got the forensic audit on Wange. Let's talk about forensic audit. They are the ones that bring the truth, and you can't argue with them. 111 million was misappropriated when the now Minister of Mines, Winston Chitanda, was the chairman of Wange. He's implicated in that. You've got the NASA forensic report, which today, again, Honourable Minister, in the end of due respect, does not seem to understand that she reports to Parliament. She said, no, I'll bring this report at my own time. Yet, the Act is very clear from the Audit Office Act and Parliament in terms of her reporting to us on any issue. Why are people hiding this NASA, the pensioners? Their monies have meant nothing, yet there are so many investments which they've done which have never benefited the pensioners at the end of the day. Where has that money go? I'm talking about forensic audit, the Zinara forensic audit, which also implicates Honourable Dexter Nduna that he must be investigated. He's not being investigated. Coming to us, Honourable Members of Parliament, we're now buying Lamborghinis, yet our rebate is on 80,000. You buy a 210 car, did you pay the excess of that? Did you get that money on a one-to-one issue? I'm not jealous of one driving a Lamborghini, no. So does it mean that I must also bring in a helicopter now and get it duty-free and be hovering around in a helicopter? We need to comply with the limits. $80,000 is what a member of Parliament is allowed in terms of rebate. Anything excess, you need to pay for it. But did you get this money on a one-to-one? There are hospitals that need medication. We just said there are Honourable Member of Parliament Gumbwanda. He passed on yesterday in a hospital. $50 was needed, was paid. The healthcare is not good, it's even affecting us. The schools, okay, the roads that you're buying a Lamborghini for are not even good enough to have a Lamborghini. What are we saying?
So where are the blockages?
There is
Once recommendations have been made by the committees, where are the blockages? Why are we not seeing the next step of investigation kicking in?
Not only that, even in Parliament, the Speaker has got the power not to entertain ministers who don't comply with recommendations, because every chairman committee has the powers to hold any minister for contempt. But the truth of the matter is that are ZANU-PF MPs willing to hold the ministers accountable and in contempt? No. But now that the Youth League is speaking, I'm sure there'll be more vibrance, there will be more line for them, because 129K of the Constitution talks about you being expelled from a party if you don't agree with what the party says. So you've got to understand that they're under check and they have to be whipped, told what to say, told to get up. You might as well ask when you want to go to the toilet, please, Chief Whip, may I go to the toilet, and so forth. So where is the independence of representing the people, justifying the taxpayers' money and so forth? No wonder why I'm moving a motion to say 129K must not be there, because it compromises members of Parliament in representing national interests, because they then cannot talk, they're scared to do that. So when you now look at this whole thing of forensic audit being there, nothing being done, the problem lies in the political will. Is there political will? Comrade Emerson Mnangagwa in the new dispensation is very clear in talking about corruption every day. We've got the new Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission chairperson, Honorable Judge Matanda Moyo, who is excellent as far as I'm concerned, will do a good job. She's credible, she's passed some strong judgments against even members of the ruling party, because it's the law. Yeah. But we also don't need an anti-corruption which is also corrupt like we had before, where officers in the anti-corruption were equally corrupt. The law enforcement agents, that they have the right to arrest. Why are they not being proactive in arresting? Do you need to really be told to arrest somebody when you think there's an allegation? I've always said to the police, where there's an accident, where people are fighting, where somebody is stolen, should I go and report to the police first for you to attend it, or you attend to it? Then if the matter is taken to the police, because you're there to maintain law and order. So all these pillars have got to work, and the thing president must also be able to hear the people when corruption is mentioned and take appropriate action quickly, because there's no point kuchengeta nyoka mumba, okay, which is haticha kuruma one day and irikuzara vana vakawanda. Be careful that snake to be the snake that bites you.
Right. You've recently released and mentioned some very powerful names on your Twitter account who you've alleged that they are involved in corruption. What are you doing about those names? Are you following the due process of the law to bring attention to your allegations?
I write. It's like ZIFA right now. I've written that there's 750,000 which they stole, and unless this is an allegation which is subject to investigation, and they cannot defend it by issuing press statements and so forth. And it is pretty there, you know. Just this year alone, ZIFA has received well over 800,000 from CAF and FIFA. What has happened to that money? So what was happening is this, just to tell you to understand, this money is in foreign currency. In EcoBank, they were going to withdraw 20,000 cash. I want you to understand this. They then go on the black market and probably sell it at 8, and then redeposit back at Interbank, which is 5. So the question, and that's there. So the question that I'm asking everybody to be with me to understand, if you really want the rate at Interbank, do you need to withdraw the 20,000? No, you can transfer it to the bank and instruct the bank that, can we dispose of 20,000? We want it in Interbank, and they transfer the money. So there's no point in withdrawing, because internal transfers can be made where your account can be credited by you giving instruction to the bank that we need to